Ladies and gents, boys and girls, what is up? Thursday, June the 22nd, 2023. Hope you are all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. I see Brendan, Ethan, Xavier, Stephanie Lee, Jeff Gullidge, Driftwood, Travi, what's going on? Also those in the Big Cock Club Discord. Head over to the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions, that your questions are answered there. Guys, I got a packed show, a lot to get into here on this Thursday. And as I tell you guys repeatedly, over and over again, you've got to be able to roll with the punches, to roll with the audibles when they're called, if you will. And hey, I'm feeling that this morning. It's been a crazy morning on this side of things. You might be wondering, Chris, where are your headphones? Well, this feels like the dog ate my homework situation. But that's exactly what happened, as this morning I sat down, was getting everything set up, and I looked down, and there's all these little red specks on the floor. And I'm like, what is that? And I look, and the headphones, the cord had been chewed up and chewed apart by our little doggy in here. Anyways, those headphones are history. We'll be getting new headphones, but yeah, no headphones today. So what that means, guys, we're still going to have our Q&A power hour. We're still going to take your questions, your comments, and your calls. Here's the only thing, though. The only way we can play your calls is if they're via voicemail, because when you call in, I can't hear you. That's the only problem, right? So if you want to leave a voicemail and those who are tuned in can hear it, really, guys, I would just suggest just leave all of your questions either on the text line or in the YouTube chat. Taking calls today is basically going to be impossible. Probably today and tomorrow, that will be the case. I order new headphones today. Again, apologize, but literally the dog ate my homework. The dog ate my headphones. It is what it is, man. I just honestly laugh it off, man. Life's too short to sweat over the little things, material items, if you will. And I guess it's my fault for leaving the door to the studio open. And she's only 1 year old, and just, I don't know. When I left for the gym, I guess she got bored. I have no idea. Either way, it's okay. It's okay. Also, guys, in regards to content today, really, really excited for what we got on the docket, but no Mark Ryan today. I know I posted this morning, Mark Ryan, and he normally joins us on Thursdays. He's got something going on with the radio station over at the Fan Upstate. So instead, we will double dip tomorrow on our guests. We'll have Jake Crane on at 1:15 and Mark Ryan on at 2 o'clock tomorrow. So it will be a jam-packed Friday. And what that means, guys, for today, yet another 2-hour show. Again, I do apologize, but it is the middle of the summer. Sometimes you got to call those audibles, if you will. So just a 2-hour show today. In this first hour, we're continuing our SEC football team previews. Today, we've got the Arkansas Razorbacks. My good friend John Neighbors of Locked On Razorbacks podcast, he took the time to chat with me, break everything down that is Arkansas in the upcoming season. Also, we continue our top 5 series on today's show as we break down the top 5 defensive backs in Gamecocks football history. And then, of course, guys, we'll spend the entire second hour getting into your questions, your comments, and your calls. So again, guys, thank you all so much for being flexible. I do apologize for, again, the craziness this morning that took place with my headphones being destroyed, and we will get new headphones, and we'll have those in by Monday of next week so we can get back to normal, but it is what it is. And guys, leave your questions in the YouTube chat. In the meantime, in the entire second hour, we'll talk about those. We'll break all those down. We'll discuss those, if you will, but no calls, I would say, over the next 2 days. Again, if you want to leave a voicemail, we can try to play it through the interface, or we go to the mic, right? That was the old school days. Back in the day, I could just play it to the mic, if you will. But ideally, just comment, just leave your questions, whatever, text line, whatever it might be. But still, a packed show today, and I'm really, really excited. Guys, right after today's show, by the way, 3 o'clock, we're continuing, of course, the SEC team previews on tomorrow's show. We're talking the Texas Longhorns. Hook 'em horns. We got my good friend Sean over at the Horn Takes podcast. He's jumping on with me today at 3 o'clock to talk all things Texas, and we'll air that on tomorrow's show at the beginning in our first hour. So again, guys, a lot of exciting stuff. The SEC team previews continue all next week as well. Tomorrow we will wrap up the top 5 series as we talk Gamecocks kickers on tomorrow's show. That'll be the final one. Of course, guys, defensive backs on today's show a little bit later in the show, if you will. But again, guys, thank you all so much. Again, the College World Series rolls on. I feel like my week this week has been very copy-paste in regards to my days. Getting after it in the morning, show noon to 3, hitting the gym, content stuff, whatever, shipping out some merchandise, if you will, and watching college. Much been the schedule all week long. So also, guys, really excited. I want to share this with you. We are revamping our store and really our merchandise presence right now, I would say. TSUS.store is getting a major overhaul, right? And so to the point where, again, I'm getting updates from my guys who are doing this. We are really focusing on the customer experience and enhancing that, if you will. We are definitely doing that in this overhaul of TSUS.store. Have been getting pictures throughout the week. My guy hit me up. We are going to be sending mailers in every purchase. That is a card on one side. It'll have the TSUS logo. On the other side, a message from yours truly with my signature all over our social handles, stuff like that, just to say thank you to you all. Of course, that's included, absolutely free with every single order. We'll also include, and I got the picture this morning of it. They look great. We'll also include a TSUS, a Spurs Up Show logo sticker, free in every single purchase. So I got the picture this morning. Really, really cool, guys. Cannot wait to share everything with you all once we get the store ready to relaunch, revamped, if you will. That will probably be happening, I would say, within the next 2 weeks, right around July 4th, really July 5th. That's our target date, right, when we transition into football content for the 2023 season. That is the target date for the relaunch. We might even go July 4th. I might relaunch the store on July 4th to have sort of a grand opening or grand reopening or grand relaunch, however you want to label it. So really, really exciting stuff upcoming. And again, guys, it's all about producing more value for you all, giving back to you all, and saying thank you to you all for your love and support of the Spurs Up Show, and specifically the merchandise side of the business. So with that being said, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into it. Like I said, jam-packed show today. No Mark Ryan. So we'll just go 2 hours today. The entire second hour, we'll take your questions, comments, calls. In the meantime, though, our top 5 series continues, as well as our SEC team preview series. My good friend John Neighbors of Locked On Razorbacks podcast, he joined me to break it all down. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation with John Neighbors of Locked On Razorbacks. As our SEC team previews continue, we head to Fayetteville, Arkansas. The Arkansas Razorbacks entering year 4 of the Sam Pittman era. Who better to help us break it down than John Neighbors of the Locked on the Razorbacks podcast. John, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. Really excited to chat with you today.
Hey, it's good to be on with you. Always appreciate the old historic SEC rivalry of Arkansas and South Carolina. That used to be a thing, but it's not anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think we missed that game, John. I would much rather play Arkansas on a yearly basis than Texas A&M. And for more reasons than just it was more competitive when South Carolina and the Hogs are going at it than what we've seen with the Gamecocks and A&M. Thankfully, the Gamecocks did snap that streak. But there were some great games, great matchups. I think, though, I still have nightmares of Darren McFadden and what he did to South Carolina's defense back in 07, 08, what have you. So don't necessarily miss those days. But it was a great series, and hopefully with the new scheduling, we will see it return soon. But before we look, John, at this season, let's look back at 2022. Arkansas, 7-6 overall, 3-5 in SEC play. And I really feel like the defining stretch for you guys because there was a lot of hype, a lot of expectations. Obviously, Gamecocks traveled to Fayetteville and really, I think the score was a little bit closer at the end than the game actually was. Arkansas was able to push South Carolina around, but that 3-game stretch in which KJ Jefferson got hurt, he then had the bum shoulder. Look at 2022. You guys did win the Liberty Bowl, excuse me, Kansas in overtime. Just talk about, again, that 2022 season and what year 3 of Sam Pittman was like for the Razorbacks.
Well, it was a frustrating year because you mentioned it. The expectations were really high for Arkansas. And looking back on the season and knowing the schedule that they had, you mentioned that South Carolina game. Arkansas not only had to go in through the SEC West and have a few opponents like South Carolina to play, and also Missouri out of conference, but or in the conference, but then out of conference, you had Cincinnati, who was just coming off of a college football playoff appearance. You had Liberty that had Hugh Freeze as a head coach. You had Missouri State, who had Bobby Petrino as a head coach, and they had to go on the road to BYU in the middle of the year. It was a grueling schedule, and everybody knew it was going to be that case. But people still felt like, hey, with the players that you have, the talent you brought in through the transfer portal, it could be another really solid year from 2021. They went 9-4 in 2021. Why can't they replicate it? And they didn't. They went 6-6, 7-6 with the bowl victory. And it was considered to be a disappointment because not only did you feel like you were better than 6-6, but some of the games, like against A&M, speaking of frustrating games, Arkansas could have just punched it in with KJ to go up 21-0 and would have won the game. Fumbled it and returned for a touchdown. You lose that game on a missed field goal at the end. The Liberty game, KJ Jefferson was not healthy, and Arkansas was all out of sorts, and you give a lot of credit to Liberty. They took care of business. Missouri at the end of the year was another one. LSU, like Arkansas lost to LSU, Missouri, and A&M. They're 3 trophy games by a combined 7 points. So it felt like that was a team that was good enough to go 9-3, maybe even 10-2 if they really got things going, but you went 6-6. So it was a frustrating year. But I think what's helping Arkansas fans right now is that a lot of changes were made. A lot of necessary changes were made. A lot of great players were added out of the portal. And you get KJ Jefferson back, which is always helpful whenever you have your stud starting quarterback. So frustrating year, a year that hopefully doesn't get replicated, but fans understand that, hey, it's a process, and they look to the future, and hopefully it ends up being a lot better for them in 2022.
Yeah, John, you talk about those trophy games. And again, I was just going back, looking over the schedule. I mean, you're talking 23-21 to Texas A&M. Really, Bama and Mississippi State were the 2 lopsided affairs, but 21-19 to Liberty, 13-10 to LSU, 29-27 to Mizzou. So like you mentioned, some really, really close losses in a couple of games. If it goes your way, the complexion of the season is totally different. We know that year 3, it's talked about a lot with head coaches, that is sort of the launching point, or the year that kind of tells you what the trajectory of the program is, or that current head coach. So maybe not the year that fans were looking for, but what's the overall feeling and vibe around Sam Pittman going in his 4th season? Obviously, he's replacing both coordinators, which we'll get into in just a second, but what's the overall vibe? I know Sam Pittman is beloved down in Fayetteville, and I just think of like the week of the Carolina-Arkansas game again, like Sam Pittman, man, was the rage. It's all people were talking about. And then as the season went on, as you know, man, winning, losing, etc., it takes its toll. So how are fans feeling about Pittman going into year 4?
Well, Sam Pittman, as you mentioned, he's beloved. And I've made the argument that Sam Pittman may be the most likable coach in the SEC right now, because it's not like he's boring where he's not even a factor. Like, he's out there. He does make funny comments. After the game, he's like, I'm going to have me a big old cold beer. Like, he's just a good old fashioned football guy. And everybody can relate to that. So everyone's rooting for him. And he wants to be at Arkansas. He's always said this is his dream job. He means it. This is where he wants to be. And he also has been a part of teams as the offensive line coach that have competed for national championships. So he knows what it looks like. He knows what it looks like to win in this conference. So all the things that you want to see in a coach are there, but the wins and losses is what you get graded by. And he understands that. He knows that. He said that last year was not good enough. And that's why he did make the changes that he did. But overall, the fans really love Sam Pittman. Like, they really want him to win. If Arkansas could win a national championship, they want Sam Pittman to be the one hoisting the trophy. Like, he's that type of coach. And I think he's done a lot of great things, especially being his first time as a head coach ever. I mean, you're talking about Arkansas going from the darkest of days to that guy who shall not be named, had 2 seasons of 2-10, to coming in and COVID hits his first year. So you have a crazy SEC schedule. So all these things coming together, and he has navigated it about as well as anyone could ask at a place like Arkansas. So I think everyone's still on board with him. They think that he has done some good things and made some adjustments and at least understands what it takes, but it's got to be executed. And going into year 4, there's that expectation that you can't do what you did last year. You have to take significant steps forward. I think he does, but overall, I think people are still happy with him. But this year, as you know, and as everybody knows, a couple bad losses can really change the entire narrative of Sam Pittman in Arkansas.
Yeah, John, 19 and 17 through 3 seasons. But again, you think about what he took over and where Arkansas football was, he's done a great job with that program. Let's start offensively, John, with the Arkansas Razorbacks in 2023. Dan Enos takes over as your offensive coordinator. There's a new offensive identity a bit in Fayetteville, going from Kendall Briles to Enos. You get your quarterback back, like you mentioned, KJ Jefferson, which I think you could argue the best quarterback in the SEC. Rocket Sanders at the running back position. What he did last year speaks for itself. Big time questions at wide receiver, some question marks at tight end. They would try to address that through the portal, and just 2 offensive line starters return. So first, we'll start with Enos. What do you expect out of this new identity? There are playmakers back on the offensive side, but certainly a lot of question marks for him as well in his first season in Fayetteville.
Well, he's been actually at Fayetteville as the offensive coordinator under Brett Bielema. You know, a lot of people may not realize that, but during the 2015, 2016 seasons and 2017, he was the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach, and he coached Brandon Allen and then Austin Allen. And so people saw what he was able to do with Brandon Allen, especially where he was just an average quarterback under Jim Chaney. But when he came in with Dan Enos, he ended up throwing for over 3,000 yards and over 30 touchdowns, and ended up being one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC that year. So they have seen him take guys and bring them to another level. Enos has coached at Alabama. He coached Jalen Hurts. You know, he was the quarterback's coach during that time too. He's gone to Maryland and coached Tua Tagovailoa's brother Talia. He's got experience of coaching quarterbacks and getting them ready for the pros. And I think that that's what people are really excited about. The aspect of Enos is not only like play calling, it obviously is important, but you got to execute it and everything. But it's about his development of KJ, because KJ is awesome. Like, I think KJ is the best quarterback in the SEC. He's a guy that needs to stay healthy. But he is tough. He loves it at Arkansas. That's why he came back for another year. But he's got to develop some things to get him ready for the NFL and to take that next step. And I think Enos is going to do those tweaks to really help him out in that regard, and also try to keep him upright as much as possible. That's the most important thing. He's got to stay healthy. So I think Enos has done a great job. I think Enos is a great fit for what Arkansas is trying to do moving forward. But as far as, you know, what the offense is going to look like as far as yardage or as far as a comparison to what it was last year, it's kind of up in the air. But at least Enos knows Arkansas, knows what it takes to run a really good offense. And I think he has a lot of good pieces to make that happen this year.
Yeah, John, I wanted to move to, who do you think is going to be, you know, we talk about, again, Rocket Sanders, of course, the lead guy, but you look at the wide receiver position and there's not a lot returning there. Who would you say right now is the guy that maybe folks are not talking about, or you think could be that breakout guy on the outside that could be the go-to option for KJ Jefferson?
Well, see, that's the biggest question mark, is because you lost a few guys from last year that were really good. Matt Landers was a great wide receiver. Jaden Hazelwood, the transfer from Oklahoma, was really good too. And you just lost a few of those pieces there. And Trey Knox, the tight end, of course, now that is at South Carolina, transferred over there with Dow Loggins. Obviously, you lose a few. I think those were the top 3 targets for KJ this past season. So you got to replace those. They've done a good job in the portal, I believe, at least building depth. And the guys that they've brought in have a lot of strength, and there's speedster guys, there's over-the-top guys. So, and in principle, it's good, but again, it's just a matter of getting them on the field. But I think, and this is a guy that may have a name that everyone knows now, but I think that they'll start to get to know him as the season goes on, is Isaac TeSlaa, is how you say his name. Not Tesla, but TeSlaa. He's got 2 A's. So he's a transfer that came from the Michigan area, from a small school. And everyone was like, wow, why is this guy getting offers from Arkansas, from Ole Miss, from A&M? You know, he was getting a lot of run, and he decided to pick Arkansas. And then during some of the spring practices, it took him a little bit to get going. But I saw exactly what they really liked in him. He's a possession guy. You just throw it in his vicinity, he's catching it. He's a really smart player, does a great job at running routes, and he's a big target. And just during the spring game, which I know you can't take much from, but you could definitely tell there was a good rapport there with KJ and Isaac to hooking up. And so I think it's going to be him. And another different, or I guess I should say another Isaac, would be, or Isaiah, is Isaiah Satania. So you're going to have Isaac and Isaiah. He's also a player, a speedster from Fayetteville that showed a lot of promise and can burn you down deep. And I think that there's also been a lot of development in his game too. So I think one of those 2 guys will definitely be the leaders of the receiving yards, touchdowns, whatever it may be this upcoming season for KJ.
So, John, let's move to the defensive side now, and there's a new coordinator on that side as well. So, Travis Williams, the first-year defensive coordinator. You add Trajan Jeffcoat up front, which I think was a big pickup in the portal, obviously coming over from Mizzou. Just 4 stars are back on that side of the ball. What I thought, John, was so interesting looking at these numbers, is that Arkansas last year set the single season school record for sacks with 42, but the numbers were not good. 30 points per game. Arkansas in the secondary gave up 295 passing yards per game, which was the worst in the FBS a season ago. Like, that math isn't mathing for me. Like, I'm not really understanding how in the world those numbers add up, but you had Bumper Pool last year. He was so good. You got to replace him. So a lot of question marks on that Arkansas defense. And of course, Travis Williams in his first year at DC. What are you expecting out of him? Are there any philosophy changes, scheme changes, and what has Arkansas done to fix that defense, if you will?
Yeah, his past year is like a guy that hit 60 home runs, but he also has 78 strikeouts. It's like, there's just so many problems with it that it just doesn't add up. And it's amazing that Arkansas went 7-6, honestly, with the amount of passing yards they gave up. But there was a major problem in the secondary. You had injuries like Jalen Catalon, who is now at Texas, ironically enough, but he got hurt for the season. And you had a lot of injuries, key injuries in the secondary, and that it just came tumbling down. It was abysmal. It was terrible. But you had Drew Sanders, who was getting after the quarterback. The D-line was really good. You had Bumper Pool, as you mentioned. So you had some guys that are at least able to make it work. But I've always said at Arkansas, at a place like Arkansas, at least, you don't need to have some great schemer when it comes to defense, or this guy who runs the 3-4 defense or anything like that. Arkansas's best defenses have come down to what a lot of these teams have seen is just having the talent. Arkansas's best defense was in 2014 over the past 10 years or so. And you had Trey Flowers, you had Dietrich Wise, you had the Darius Philon, you had Martrell Spate, you had NFL bona fide dudes, and that's why the defense was good. So you got to get to that point to where you can at least get some. It'd be great to have all 11 guys be NFL guys like Bama or Georgia, but in Arkansas, you're not going to have that. So you got to have at least a few key pieces there. And once you do that, it's going to work out for you. And I think that's what Travis Williams has really brought. The recruiting has been incredible. Probably the best I have seen it when it comes to just getting visits, just getting contact with guys. And as of right now, I know it's early, but as of right now, Arkansas has more 4-star commitments for the 2024 class than at this point in time that they've had like ever. So they're doing a great job in recruiting. I think there's a new energy, a new excitement. And with the experience of Travis Williams, and you throw in a Marcus Woodson, who's also been around, he's the new safeties coach, which is very important to get that. And the portal, they've hit it hard in getting a bunch of D-backs. Got a couple of guys from Baylor that are going to be really good. Got Jaheim Singletary from Georgia, who's a former 5-star player. They're expecting big things out of him. You got Dwight McLaughlin coming back at cornerback, who was actually one of the few key pieces that looked good. Quincy McAdoo, who is unfortunately in a car accident. We don't know the extent still to this day of how long he's going to be out, but if he's healthy, he showed a lot of promise. Even my guy, the no-fly zone, Hudson Clark, he was a guy that actually did pretty well. So you had some, the ones you wanted back, you're getting back in the secondary. You added good ones, and I think the overall depth and talent level of the defense is better this year than it was last year. The only thing about it is I'm like, Drew Sanders was really good. I mean, he's an NFL player. I don't know if you're going to have him replaced, but Bumper Pool, as much as I loved him, I think you got guys that are just as good to step up. I think the D-line has a lot of good guys coming back, and also from the portal too. So I think the defense significantly is going to be better, because honestly, it couldn't be much worse when it came to the secondary, at least.
Now, moving to special teams, John, anything of note? Of course, Cam Little return has been really good for Arkansas. The numbers on him, 33 of 40, 82.5% on field goals, putting him on track to break the school accuracy record. At punter, Max Fletcher. I know there were some questions with the punter spot last year and in the return game. Anything notable for Arkansas in regards to special teams? Did it hurt them a year ago, and what are the expectations for them this year?
Special teams, it's weird. Under Sam Pittman, he's got Scott Fountain, who is the special teams coordinator. He actually brought him from Georgia. And every year at the beginning, the special teams are terrible. Like, it's just bad. Like, Cam Little's been pretty consistent. It's like talk about the Texas A&M game, missing that field goal where it bounced off the top of the upright. I've still never seen that to this day. Like, just doesn't happen. But other than that, he's been as solid as they come. But the punting situation, you had Max Fletcher, but you struggled last year. But they had Reed Bauer come back in, and he was great. So he's now gone. He transferred. You had Bryce Stevens, who was a punt returner, who actually returned a kick for a punt for a touchdown last year, who's really good at that. So you have some things where you're like, okay, this could be good, but it was so bad last year at times that it doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence. But as the year went on, it got better. It got more solid. There was less problems. And I know depth matters. I know, you don't want a bunch of walk-ons out there, which Arkansas had to deal with sometimes with injuries. But I think that if it starts out bad again, then there probably needs to be something changed. There needs to be something like that because you can't start the season with block punts, missed field goals. The amount of lining up off or the amount of lining up in the wrong places and getting penalties on special teams was absurd, but it got better. So it's not something that I would say is a strength of Arkansas, but it potentially could be if they just figure it out earlier than what they have the past few years.
So, John, when you look at this Arkansas team in 2023, 8 starters returned, 4 on the offensive side, 4 on the defensive side. But again, 2 of the big ones, KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders. And you take a look at this 2023 schedule. You open up with 3 straight home games in the non-conference, Western Carolina, Kent State, BYU. Then that big one, September the 23rd at LSU. I'm sure that'll be a great gauge of where you are. Texas A&M and Arlington on the 30th, then at Ole Miss, at Bama, Mississippi State, at Florida, Auburn, FIU, and Mizzou. How do you feel the 2023 schedule shakes out for Arkansas? Your overall thoughts? Maybe a key game or two that you think will shape the Razorback season this upcoming fall?
This is the first schedule that I can remember in a long time where Arkansas just doesn't get absolutely wrecked by having to play at Georgia or a non-conference schedule that's absurd. Like, it's not an easy schedule, but is the easiest schedule Arkansas has had in quite some time, just because you don't have those big time games against East opponents or non-conference opponents. And listen, like the non-conference games, you mentioned it, you have them all at home, and you should win all those games. Arkansas, their toughest one's BYU, and they smoked BYU on the road last year. So it's like, you should win all those games. And then you mentioned A&M. That game's weird. I hate it because Arkansas, I'm not kidding, Arkansas has been the best team in that game for like 15 straight years or however long it's been, but they've won one because of stupid stuff that happens. I don't understand it, but it's really frustrating. So who knows what happens in that game against A&M. And LSU and Bama, I don't think it matters if you play them at home or on the road. You're probably going to lose that game. And this is the first time Arkansas has played LSU in September ever. So they usually have all you had to November, and it's going to be hot down there in the Bayou. So I don't count any of those games as almost like losses or anything, but the rest of the SEC schedule, State, Auburn, and Missouri, 2 of those teams have new coaches with Hugh Freeze and Zach Arnett. And I don't know if they're going to be good or not. I don't think they will. I think it'll take a little bit. So you can win those games at home. In Missouri, it's another frustrating game that you have been the better team, but you can't figure out to win. You better win that game. You have to win that game this year. So you win those 3. And then your other 2 true road games at Ole Miss, who you've actually owned since Lane Kiffin's been there. The only time you've lost to him was where you had a 2-point conversion to win it at the end of regulation and you just missed it. And that was the year Ole Miss had like their best season ever, because that's how little of a program they are. So it's like they are all about that. And then to Florida, which I honestly don't think they'll be very good. Like, they weren't that good last year. They've had some issues. I know they've done a good job in recruiting this year, but those guys aren't going to be there this year. So putting all that together, I think that this schedule is favorable. I think it's about KJ Jefferson's health. Obviously, I think the defense will be improved because it can't get much worse. Offensive line will be fine because Sam Pittman, as long as he's the coach, your offensive line is going to be good. Tight ends upgraded. You got the running backs. I think that if it all works out where everyone stays healthy and it does improve the way it should, I see no reason why Arkansas can't win 8 or 9 games this year. I really don't. And wins if it really were a plan, which I wouldn't, bank on. But I think this schedule sets up for it. I think the team sets up for it. And I think Arkansas takes a significant jump forward and not only being really good here in the conference, but being able to showcase that, hey, under Sam Pittman and the future of Sam Pittman looks really bright, trying to get things back on track after taking a step back last year.
And John, that's a great segue in what I wanted to get to next, just the expectations for Pittman in year 4. I mean, again, year 3 is just labeled as that jumping point year. Maybe a little bit of a disappointment, especially with KJ Jefferson, but he's back now. Rocket Sanders, there's some unfinished business type of feeling. And I feel like the East and West are sort of similar, where it's like in the East, you have Georgia, and then you have a bunch of teams that if everything breaks right, their ceiling's very high, but also things can go sideways in a hurry. In the West, it's like you've got LSU, Bama, and then those couple of teams that are Ole Miss, Arkansas, Mississippi State, even in Auburn with Hugh Freeze in year 1. If they're able to reach their full potential, you could see some 8-win, 9-win type of teams. And I would imagine with KJ Jefferson back, again, you could argue the best quarterback in the league, their ceiling is extremely high, especially if he reaches his full potential. So just speak on, again, the expectations. I know you just briefly mentioned it, but the expectations for year 4 of Sam Pittman and what you're expecting from Arkansas this upcoming season.
The expectation for Sam Pittman is kind of the same expectation for just Arkansas football as a program. And I mean this with all due respect to Razorback fans, and I think I speak for a lot of them. The football program is really the only sport at the University of Arkansas that Razorback fans understand where they're at. Like in every other sport, they can compete and win national championships. Like in men's basketball, they can. And in baseball, they can. In softball, they can. In track, they do. Like they understand every program at Arkansas, you can compete and win national championships. But they also understand in football, it's a different animal. And I think that most people will say that if you can just get to the point where you're averaging 7 to 8 wins a year, and on occasion every 3, 4, or 5 years, get to that 10-win mark, get to that 9 wins and a bowl win, something like that, you're going to keep your job and you're going to be fine and people are going to love you for it. And I think that that's what it is with Sam Pittman, essentially, is going into year 4. The first year we went 3-7 in that COVID year, which is still luckily the SEC made up for it for their schedule in 2024 because the SEC owned Arkansas that year, but went 3-7. High. And this past year, you took a step back, but now it needs to get back to that point to where for Pittman, I think for people, if you get to 7 wins, 7-5, people will be fine. They won't be pumped. They won't be happy, but they'll be fine. 8 wins, satisfied. People are like, okay, good deal. Good deal. We like this. This is great. 9 wins and above, contract extension, get him going. Like, all right, this is the dude. Let's get behind him. This is awesome. That's kind of where it's at right now. 6 wins, I think they'll be probably split. Half people calling for his head, other half saying give him a chance. But if you don't make a bowl game this year, you probably need, like, something's going to have to happen because you can't go from 9 wins to 7 wins to 5 wins. Just that does not work in the SEC, and that will not work. And that will not work here, especially with this schedule, and especially having KJ Jefferson. So I think that people will be between 7, 8, 9 wins, somewhere in there. People will be okay. But obviously, the more you get, happier people are.
Yeah, big year for Pittman and those new coordinators as well, proving that there's the guys for the job. John, last thing before I get you out of here, biggest question mark for Arkansas this season, and also what has to click for the Razorbacks to reach their full potential and, let's say, get to that 8-win or 9-win mark that you mentioned?
Well, I think the biggest question mark is just the wide receivers, as we talked about, because you replaced all your production essentially from last year. And you feel good about the production you brought in, but you didn't bring in any like big names. Last year when they had Jaden Hazelwood from Oklahoma, he was a 5-star player that got people excited. Same thing with Matt Landers, where he came from Toledo, but he was at Georgia before, and people saw his potential there too. And you could have some of that this year, but it's just unknown. So I think it's the biggest question mark there of just who KJ is going to throw to. I think, the tight end position, Trey Knox was really good, but he was originally a wide receiver converted to tight end. And he had some problems too. He had a lot of drop passes he shouldn't have had, but through the portal, they have upgraded that. They got Gums from North Texas, who was one of the best tight ends in the country last year. At least he was all conference in his and had one of the best production you could see. So they got him, they got freshmen. So just who KJ is going to be throwing to is the biggest question mark. But I think as long as you got Enos and as long as you got that running back core to back him up, he's going to be just fine, and he's going to make it work. Like he's had to, people thought, oh, what happens when they have to replace Traylon Burks, who was so good? Well, they still had a really good year. So that's the biggest question mark. But honestly, what it's going to come down to is just, can the defensive back 7 be average, like decent? That's kind of the thing. It's like no one's expecting Arkansas to have a top 3 defense in the SEC. It'd be great, but they went 7-6 last year with a horrible passing defense. So just imagine if they had an average one, like what they could have done and some of these games, how bit different it would have been. So I think that that's what it's going to come down to, and what's going to keep them from going 7-5 or 9-3, 10-2 is if you have a significant jump in that defensive secondary. I'm talking about guys really just being next level, like being healthy for one, but also having great abilities to stop plays, get off the field on 3rd down. And also the big plays too, because that was Arkansas. I think they were dead last in the SEC of plays 25 yards or more. Just to slow that down, stop that as much as you can. And I don't see any reason why Arkansas doesn't get to that point and take those significant steps forward this year.
KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders, the best quarterback, running back duo in the country?
I mean, I think so. I'd love to hear arguments for other ones. Listen, I think KJ is the best quarterback in the SEC, and, call bias or whatever, but I just do. And, as far as in the country goes, I mean, obviously Caleb Williams is, there, but KJ's got a lot going for him, and I love his abilities, and I love what he does. He's hard to bring down. He's got a lot of things going for him that's so good. And with Rock, the guy rushed for 400 yards last year. I mean, that's to me is just something that you can't in the SEC, mind you, you're just thumb your nose at. So with those two guys, I just be hard pressed to find a more proven duo, especially in the fact that, and I even brought this up on my podcast. I went back and looked. This is going to be the only time where the starting quarterback and the starting running back for Arkansas have played together for 3 straight years. Like that has not happened before. You've had guys who were there for 2 years and then moved on because the quarterback moved on or vice versa. But these guys have played together and have been the starters. This is going to be the 3rd straight year. So I see no reason why they don't play even better, have better production, be better duos this year. And I'd just be hard pressed to find a better running back quarterback duo in the country than what you got with KJ and Rocket.
Yeah, John, I can't. Especially Jefferson, who, again, it feels like he's coming back with this kind of unfinished business mentality. And yeah, I think he's going to take the SEC by storm for sure. John Neighbors of Locked On Razorbacks podcast. John, let everybody know where they can find your work and keep up with the Razorbacks this season.
Absolutely. On John Neighbors, it's spelled Nabors because, long story, it's just spelled weird and differently. But anyways, you can find me on there and the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. You can find that wherever podcasts are found. I have a YouTube page as well at Locked On Razorbacks. Also do a sports talk radio show here in Arkansas on 103.7 The Buzz called Out of Bounds from 1 to 4 every weekday afternoon. So as I tell many people, if you can't find me, that's a you problem because I'm pretty much everywhere. So you just need to figure it out.
I love it. John, I appreciate you taking the time, man. Let's definitely do this again soon.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it so much.
Okay, that was John Neighbors, Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Definitely check him out, guys. Great stuff on Arkansas this upcoming season. Jeff, no, I did not ask John about Dowell Loggins because in these SEC team previews, I'm really trying to keep it about their team specifically. So there's really not a Gamecock tie to it. I am simply somebody who is inquiring on their specific team. So Dowell Loggins is not a part of the Arkansas Razorbacks football program, so feel the need to ask Dowell Loggins that we don't already know. So, anyways, guys, great stuff. Again, I hope you enjoyed that. Really, really great stuff. And again, check out John Neighbors and all of his work over at Locked On Razorbacks and everything he's doing on social media as well. Guys, we are going to jump into a quick break. As I mentioned, there will be no calls today, so leave all of your questions, your comments, your everything in the YouTube. Out the Q&A Power Hour, but unfortunately, we are not able to take calls today. So, leave all of your questions in the chat, guys. When we get back, we're going to continue our top 5 series talking Gamecocks defensive backs. And then after that, we'll dive into your questions, your comments, and your calls. We're rocking and rolling here on this Thursday. We keep the convo going on the other side of the break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. Attention all Gamecock seafood lovers. Are you tired of searching for the freshest seafood in town? Look no further than the Carolina Fish Market, your go-to destination for the finest and most flavorful seafood in the Carolinas and beyond. Introducing the new Carolina Seafood Subscription Box, a culinary delight delivered right to your doorstep. Each month, you'll receive a carefully curated selection of fresh local seafood sourced directly from the waters of the Carolinas and beyond, from succulent shrimp to mouth-watering grouper to flounder or tuna and everything in between. Their subscription box brings the ocean's bounty straight to your Gamecock kitchen. What sets the Carolina Fish Market apart is their commitment to quality and sustainability. They work closely with local fishermen and women who use responsible fishing practices, ensuring that every bite you take supports both your taste buds and our precious marine ecosystems. They've even won Best Seafood 5 out of the last 8 years. But that's not all. they're offering free shipping to all TSUS listeners on every Carolina Seafood subscription box, making it even easier for you to indulge in the flavors of the coast. Experience the convenience and joy of having fresh seafood delivered right to your door without any of the hassle. Don't miss on this incredible opportunity to elevate your culinary adventures with the Carolina Fish Market's Carolina Seafood subscription box. Join the seafood enthusiasts across the nation who are savoring the taste of the Carolinas, one delectable bite at a time, and just in time for Father's Day. Visit their website today at carolinafishmarket.com. That's carolinafishmarket.com, and embark on a seafood journey like no other. Freshness, flavor, and convenience await you. Order your Carolina Seafood subscription box now and use the promo code SPURSUP, that's SPURSUP, for $10 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code SPURSUP, SPURSUP, for $10 off your first purchase. The Carolina Fish Market, where taste meets the ocean.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, June the 22nd, 2023. Hope you all are all, I can't even spit it out, are all doing well. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, in case you missed it at the top of the show, you noticed today we do not have the headphones on. We had a bit of a mishap with a dog chewing a cord, if you will. I feel like the dog ate my homework guy back in middle school, but that is what happened. So new headphones have been ordered. We will have those Saturday, so we'll have them in time for next week for the Daily Crow. So I do apologize. I know it's kind of a weird vibe, and of course, we're not able to take your calls today or tomorrow, but we'll jump back into those on Monday. And the puppy feels so bad. She's over here just laid up, chilling, asleep, enjoying herself. No big deal. Either way, it is what it is. Also, by the way, really quickly, before we go any further, I want to shout out my dude, Chase, who is one of our moderators, I guess our lone moderator in the chat. And I want to shout him out because, as you all know, we went through a couple of week period there where a lot of slapdickery was taking place in the comments. And I want to shout out Chase because honestly, it's been much more peaceful. It's been much less slapdickery. It's been much less chaos. And that's a lot of because of the work that Chase has done in deterring the slapdicks from coming into the chat. So I want to say thank you to Chase for the great work and appreciate him volunteering to do that and helping out with the business, with the show. And obviously it helps out with the content and the value that is driven to you guys in this show. So also Chase, a member of the Big Cock Club, appreciate our good friend Chase for doing that. Guys, like I said, we continue on with the conversation here on this Thursday as our top 5 series continues. On the defensive side, we talked about every school labels themselves as a wide receiver U or quarterback U or tight end U or D-line U or whatever it is that your school produces the most elite players of at the position, if you will. You could realistically label South Carolina DEU when you think about all the great defensive backs that have come through Columbia, and that's what we're talking about today, the top 5 best defensive backs in Gamecocks football history, and we start with number 5. This man played for the Gamecocks from 2004 to 2005. During his career, he racked up 103 total tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 7 interceptions, also had a touchdown in those 2 seasons as well. Of course, it was highlighted by his freshman season in 2004, in which he pulled in 6 interceptions. 6 interceptions in just 1 season. Coming in at number 5 on our list, Co Simpson, and one of the greatest ball hawks in school history, guys. When you think about what Co did, and again, it's a shame that his career was so short at South Carolina. Obviously, made the jump to go to the next level, and I think a long line. It's crazy at South Carolina. There's a long line, it feels like, of players that really could have benefited from another year. I think Co Simpson would have been one of those guys, but either way, 2004, that season, 6 interceptions all over the place. Then 2005, helped a lot of the run defense and only had that 1 pick. And I think a lot of it was because teams just knew how good he was and did not throw his way. Again, guys, one of the greatest ball hawks in school history. 5 on our list. Coming in at number 4, this man played for the Gamecocks from 2009 to 2011. During his career, he racked up 181 total tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and 8 total interceptions. At number 4 on our list, Stephon Gilmore. And guys, let me stop here, by the way, and say this. This is a very highly debated list. That's what makes these all so fun, but especially this one, right? This is a very highly debated list. There are a lot of guys who could be in this top 5. We have been blessed. We have been very fortunate to watch so many great defensive backs come through Columbia, South Carolina. So if I leave off your favorite player, if you disagree, the beauty is in the banter. Never forget that. But it was highlighted for Gilmore. 2010, really his breakout season when he had 79 total tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 3 interceptions in that season. Also had a touchdown. And guys, of course, one thing that makes Gilmore stand out, he was a dual threat player. 7 carries for 37 yards in his career. Also went 2 for 3 for 68 yards and had some really, really big passes for the Gamecocks. One in particular you think of against Clemson in 2010. I'll say this about Stephon Gilmore because a lot of people look at Gilmore in this rating and say, how is he not higher? Here's what you have to understand. We are not factoring in NFL careers, okay? We're not factoring in NFL careers. Stephon Gilmore became a much, much better pro than he was a college player. And he was a damn good college player. Don't get me wrong. We all agree. He was a damn good college player. But when he got to the NFL, his game took another step. And of course, I think for a couple of years there, there was no debate. He was the best defensive back in the entire NFL. So again, number 4 on our list, Stephon Gilmore. Coming in at number 3 on our list, this man played for the Gamecocks from 1995 to 1999. During his career, he racked up 307 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, and 10 interceptions. At number 3 on our list, Arturo Freeman. And again, guys, played in the 90s, right? Those teams were hit or miss, if you will, especially in the late 90s. Was a part of that 98 team that went 1-10, 99 that went 0-11. But Arturo Freeman was a fantastic player and a baller in his own right. He was named SEC All-Freshman in 95, All-SEC second team in 96, All-SEC yet again in 97. And actually, Arturo Freeman, a friend of the show, we talked about the injury in 1998 that derailed that season. And he told me, he said, Chris, I wasn't the same. I just was not the same as a player. And I mean, you look at it, guys, he had 1 pick in 95, 3 in 96. His big season came in 1997. He had 92 tackles and 6 interceptions in that season. Of course, 1998 does not play in the 99, 34 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, did not have a pick. Again, he just was not the same guy. So you think to yourself, how good could he have been had he not gotten injured? I mean, I think that's the big question when you look at Arturo Freeman's career and everything he did in Columbia, but still a fantastic player, one of the best Gamecocks defensive backs in school history, and he ranks number 3 on our list. Coming in at number 2 on our list, this man played for the Gamecocks from 2009 to 2012. During his career, he racked up 244 total tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss. He also had 6 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, a fumble recovery, which he took all the way. And guys, regarded as one of the greatest and most intimidating defensive players in school history. At number 2 on our list, DJ Swearinger. And he also, by the way, had 2 pick sixes. I misspoke, did not have a scoop and score, but he had 2 pick sixes in his career, 1 in 2010, 1 in 2012. And of course, the 1 in 2012 is so well remembered because it came on the series of plays against Arkansas where he gets flagged for the personal foul. Couple plays later, the pick 6, throws the ball in the stands. Who cares? Who cares? Says Todd Ellis. I mean, DJ Swearinger, man. Also, probably one of the most iconic images in South Carolina football history. The South Carolina-Clemson rivalry on Andre Ellington, man. I mean, you think about the heart and soul of those defenses, right? We think of how great those defenses were, some of the best in school history in 10, 11, and 12. And DJ Swearinger was that guy who it really felt like, guys, he made that thing go. I mean, really, truly, would come down, lay the wood, was also great in coverage, and just did it all for South Carolina. I mean, it's hard to put his greatness into words. And you talk about a guy like a Marcus Lattimore on the offensive side during that era that it almost felt like his impact was bigger than just his numbers. His impact was even bigger than the football field. Like, that's DJ Swearinger, right? Like, people still talk about Jungle Boy swag. They still talk about 2 spoons to this day. And DJ Swearinger's impact still is felt to this day. I mean, consistent all throughout his career. His breakout season really coming in 2011 when he had 80 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions on that season. One of the leaders on those teams, guys. Of course, he never lost to Clemson. The great story, we had DJ Swearinger on the show, and he told me, he said, Chris, Dabo and company came to recruit me, and I told Dabo, I said, I will never lose to Clemson. And he fulfilled that promise. Just incredible stuff, man. And number 2 on our list, well deserving, DJ Swearinger. And that brings us to number 1 on our list. He played for the Gamecocks from 1999 to 2002. During his career, 348 total tackles, 27.5 tackles for loss. He registered 2 interceptions, 6 forced fumbles, a fumble recovery. And guys, from people I've talked to from during that era in the early 2000s, they will tell you he is the greatest tackler in school history. At number one, and the greatest Gamecocks defensive back of all time, Rashad Faison. You look at his career, guys. Again, he doesn't have the interception numbers of some, but was named freshman All-American in 1999, All-SEC second team in 2001. And you just look at safety. In 2000, he broke out for 100 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, and an interception, and a forced fumble. In 2001, he had 104 tackles, 9.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a pick, 3 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery. 93 tackles in his final season in 2002. Guys, simply put, this dude was all over the field. Again, he didn't have the interception numbers of some, but you talk to folks back then, also helped lead the greatest turnaround in school history from 99 to 2000, 2001, the back-to-back Outback Bowl victories over Ohio State. You talk to anybody from that era, and they will tout Rashad Faison as one of the best, if not the best in school history, and he is number one on our list. So again, guys, my top 5 best defensive backs in Gamecocks football history. At number 5, Co Simpson. Number 4, Stephon Gilmore. Number 3, Arturo Freeman. Number 2, DJ Swearinger. And at number 1, Rashad Faison. Guys, that being said, let's jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll dive into your questions, your comments, your calls, as well as we get into our Q&A Power Hour here on this Thursday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. Attention all Gamecock seafood lovers. Are you tired of searching for the freshest seafood in town? Look no further than the Carolina Fish Market, your go-to destination for the finest and most flavorful seafood in the Carolinas and beyond. Introducing the new Carolina Seafood Subscription Box, a culinary delight delivered right to your doorstep. Each month, you'll receive a carefully curated selection of fresh local seafood sourced directly from the waters of the Carolinas and beyond. From succulent shrimp to mouth-watering grouper to flounder or tuna and everything in between, their subscription box brings the ocean's bounty straight to your Gamecock kitchen. What sets the Carolina Fish Market apart is their commitment to quality and sustainability. They work closely with local fishermen and women who use responsible fishing practices, ensuring that every bite you take supports both your taste buds and our precious marine ecosystems. They've even won Best Seafood 5 out of the last 8 years. But that's not all. They're offering free shipping to all TSUS listeners on every Carolina Seafood subscription box, making it even easier for you to indulge in the flavors of the coast. Experience the convenience and joy of having fresh seafood delivered right to your door without any of the hassle. Don't miss on this incredible opportunity to elevate your culinary adventures with the Carolina Fish Market's Carolina Seafood Subscription Box. Join the seafood enthusiasts across the nation who are savoring the taste of the Carolinas, one delectable bite at a time, and just in time for Father's Day. Visit their website today at carolinafishmarket.com. That's carolinafishmarket.com, and embark on a seafood journey like no other. Freshness, flavor, and convenience await you. Order your Carolina Seafood subscription box now and use the promo code SPURSUP, that's SPURSUP, for $10 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code SPURSUP, SPURSUP, for $10 off your first purchase. The Carolina Fish Market, where taste meets the ocean.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
Hi, guys. We're back here on this Thursday, June the 22nd, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. And again, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in as we begin our Q&A Power Hour as we take your questions, comments, calls. Again, guys, we are wrapping up the show today at 2 o'clock because Mark Ryan has rescheduled for tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So, anyways, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up at 2. I mean, guys, I appreciate you all again, rolling with the punches. I think you all understand, right? This is a time of year where things are very, very slow, and you're going to have sort of these audibles called, guests are going out of town, taking vacations, doing other things. So, again, I appreciate you guys, your love, your understanding, and just realizing that, again, we are in the dog days of the offseason, if you will. The only folks who really have anything going on are those whose teams are in the College World Series. And, of course, we know the Florida Gators will be in the final. LSU Wake tonight, Rhett Lauder against Paul Skeens, which if you're not watching that college baseball game, I don't know where you are. We'll actually have that on in the Big Cock Club Discord tonight. And also, guys, the only other thing I'm doing is tonight, actually, at 8 p.m. Eastern, I'm going on a Twitter Spaces with this Auburn guy, just some random dude that hit me up, Jeremy. He's only got like 500 followers on Twitter, but he's done some Twitter Spaces with some people. So, he's done Indiana football talk. He's done Arkansas. And I figure why not? The more the merrier. Let's talk some ball. So we'll do a little Twitter Spaces conversation at 8 o'clock tonight, but we'll also have the baseball game on in the Big Cock Club Discord. So anyways, going to be a lot of fun, and appreciate each and every single one of y'all tuning in and those that find value in that. I will say this, by the way. Interestingly enough, and again, guys, we're not able to take calls today, so please text the number, comment, whatever you like. I'll say this. Listening to John Neighbors of Locked On Razorbacks podcast talk about Arkansas, guys, my thought was this. This team sounds a lot like South Carolina. You know what I mean? Like, they've got Rocket Sanders and South Carolina does not, which is the biggest difference. And I think KJ Jefferson is a little bit better of a quarterback all the way around than Spencer Rattler. When you factor in KJ Jefferson's mobility, the dual threat aspect, Spencer Rattler really doesn't have that. But like the overall outlooks of the teams and the programs, it feels really similar, to be honest. Like when he was talking about, for Arkansas fans, if you can, stay at that 7 to 8 win range and every 3-4 years getting a 9, 10, 11 win, I was like, we have mentioned those same expectations for South Carolina football 4, have we not? Like, we really have. So I wonder, and I guess that brings me to this question, guys. Who would you most compare South Carolina's football program to from the SEC West? Because I've heard Mississippi State before, but I think Arkansas is a really, really good comparison, right? Like, you look at the program and you say to yourself, I mean, there's no reason why this cannot be a big-time program. But you got to have the right coach who's the right fit for that unique situation, that unique place, and that unique job with those unique people. Well, that is Sam Pittman at Arkansas, and that is Shane Beamer at South Carolina. I see those two programs very similarly. It feels like both are in similar situations where they're trying to, of course, they're on year 4 of their head coach, South Carolina, on year 3 with Shane Beamer, both trying to break through this glass ceiling, if you will. Both are very similar. Would you agree? Would you say that Arkansas is the SEC West equivalent of South Carolina? Or would you go someone else, say a Mississippi State, an Ole Miss, an Auburn, etc.? Let's get into your questions. Austin Hicks brings up something really interesting. He said, what did you think about him saying Trey Knox had a lot of dropped passes? Do you think that was maybe him being salty that he came to South Carolina? Austin, I'll say this, man. You got to take the personal bias out of things. So I did not take it that way. If he was trying to take a shot at South Carolina and me as a Gamecock fan, I missed that because I did not take it that way. And I'll tell you why I didn't take it that way. You look at Trey Knox's stats, okay? Trey Knox's stats during his time at Arkansas. His best receiving year came 2019 to 2020 season, the 19 season. He had 28 catches for 385 yards and 3 touchdowns. 2020 happened. I don't really count that. 7 catches for 70 yards. Looks like he only started 6 games. So maybe he battled some injury. 2021, 20 catches for 141 yards, 1 touchdown. Then last year, had a solid season. I mean, not great, not as good as his first season. 26 catches for 296 and 5 touchdowns, average just 24.7 yards per game. So, guys, I like Trey Knox's size, and I think he has the ability to be an offense, but I don't think Trey Knox is a perfect player. And we'll talk a lot about this when we get into our position unit previews, and we're talking, the tight end position, right? When we get to that position unit. I mean, I think Trey Knox, here's the thing. Trey Knox is a player where I think fans look at him and they get lost in he's just a physically imposing player. But is he a 1,000-yard receiving tight end? He's not Hayden Hurst. I don't see him that way. He's not a Jared Cook. I don't see him that way. I'll actually pose this to you guys. Let's see here. I'm really curious. Let's see. Okay. Jaheim Bell last year had 25 catches for 231 yards. Okay. He had 73 rushes for 261. So Jaheim Bell had 492 yards from scrimmage and 5 touchdowns. My question to you is this, because everybody's convinced that Trey Knox is an upgrade from what you had from Jaheim Bell. And hey, listen, stand on business. The way the Bell thing ended, guys, I don't like it any more than you do. But I simply pose the question. Over under 492. Does Trey Knox have over or under 492 yards from scrimmage this season? I'll take it a step further. 5 touchdowns. Over under 5 touchdowns. Does Trey Knox have over or under 5 touchdowns? Because I've heard a lot this offseason that he's a massive upgrade. And I wonder, are people speaking because they've got bias against Jaheim Bell because of the way things ended, or do they actually believe he's a better player? Guys, I like Trey Knox a lot. I like the potential of Trey Knox. But the reality of Trey Knox is this: he has not caught a touchdown against a Power 5 opponent since 2021, October of 2021 to be exact. So I don't think it's a no-brainer that Trey Knox is some all-SEC caliber tight end. I don't think it's a no-brainer that Trey Knox is going to take the SEC by storm. Now, you would think with Dowell Loggins, his position coach in Fayetteville, you would think now with him at OC, he's going to be dialing things up for Trey Knox. And we loved what we saw from Trey Knox in the spring game. Granted, it was a spring game. But I don't know if it's as much a no-brainer that Trey Knox is some massive upgrade over Jaheim Bell as some are maybe insinuating. And again, this kind of goes back to, why is Carolina being slept on? Why are we being disrespected? Well, guys, when you look at the transfer portal, people don't see, I mean, they look at Trey Knox, okay player. Joshua Simon, Western Kentucky. No pickups at the running back position. Jatius Gear, Syracuse. Right? Jaron Willis at linebacker, okay, didn't really play. Ole Miss defensive guy. What they see is, okay, you didn't really pick up any game changers, but you lost Jaheim Bell, you lost Marshawn Lloyd, and you lost Jordan Burch, and you lost Gilbert Edmond. Those are 4 SEC caliber starters who played significant snaps for South Carolina last year. That's why you're being doubted going into this season. That's why everybody's saying the transfer portal killed South Carolina this cycle. And we'll see. It might turn out that's not the case. If the guys who left don't pan out and the guys South Carolina brought in are better fits and work out better, that may not be the case. But that's the national perception. That's the national view. Because I tell you this, if those guys, let's just go that trio. Let's go actually the 4. If those 4 guys, if Bell, Lloyd, Burch, and Edmond are all back, I think the perception of Carolina, guys, I wouldn't be surprised if the win total in Vegas is in a whole win higher. I would not be surprised at all if it's a whole win higher. And I think what's funny, and I'm going to just say it as is, the hypocrisy of fans to, at this same point last year, be touted, all four that left, especially the three in Lloyd, Bell, and Birch, to be touting all three as they're great players and this, that. I mean, God, Jaheim Bell, you thought he was going to win the Heisman this point last year. And now, because they've transferred, they all suck. It's hypocrisy, man. It's hypocrisy. It's flat-out hypocrisy. And so you have to factor in what you lost. Listen, I'm going to just tell you right now. To conclude, really enjoying these, by the way. I don't know if you guys are. I'm really enjoying them. I love learning about the other teams. But I'm so pumped to get into the predictions, the projections, talking special teams, getting into the nitty-gritty, because I'm going to have some takes about this 2023 football season. I do every single year that make people feel good, make people feel bad, make people feel in between. I've always got takes. I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? And that's the way I look at social media, the way I look at everything. It's like when you do what I do and you give thousands of takes, it's not a matter of if you're going to have a take that sets somebody off or gets people going. It's just when. Which take is it going to be, right? Let's see. Austin Hicks. But what I was going to say, though, is that, and I'm sitting here reading the comments as I'm talking, the same thing's going to happen over the 2023 football season. Because, guys, I'll tell you this, there's some real holes and question marks on this South Carolina team. And, again, you can shit on Marshawn Lloyd all you want to, but I'd give anything to have him back. I would give anything to have Marshawn Lloyd back. Listen, I'm not a huge fan of Jaheim Bell. I don't love the way he exited. But I wish he had never, I would have rather these. We're talking this time last year that he was this Swiss Army knife. He can do it all. He's one of the best players in the SEC. And now they're saying he stinks. So, all we got's all we need. And I think South Carolina, because of their culture and what they're building in the building, they're better off without him because he didn't want to be there. But that's a real issue now. Who replaces the production? And I see Hunter Johnson in the comments. How many games did those four players take over to help win last year? He says, I'll answer. 0. They didn't do shit all year, not because they transferred. Their hype didn't translate. All Lloyd did was run on Charlotte, and who couldn't do that? He says, you're wrong. Neither one of them produced in their tenure at Carolina. Bell had one good game against UNC. Hunter, I'm just reading the stats off to you, my friend. 497 receiving yards in 2021, 231 last year, 537 from scrimmage in 2021, 492 last year, 5 touchdowns in 2021, 5 touchdowns in 2022. I'm just reading the stats off to you, my guy. Whether you think they were overhyped, underhyped, they were also part of a really, really bad offensive system. I know you'd probably even agree with that. They were part of a really bad offensive system. But so let me ask you this, though. Let me say this, Hunter. Let me ask you this, Hunter. I would just say this. Okay, they underachieved. Fine. But does South Carolina have more just raw talent than a Jaheim Bell? Do they have do they have a running back who's got more raw talent than Marshawn Lloyd? The answer, by the way, to that one's no. That's a resounding no. There's nobody on this roster at the running back position that's even close. I'm sorry. You want to talk about he couldn't stay healthy? Fine. But there's not a running back on this. There's not a SEC caliber running back on this roster. Juju McDowell's a nice scat back, but that's literally it. Okay? Anyways, You know, Jordan Burch is a guy. Listen, we look at him, and I said it last year for the season. It was a huge season for Jordan Burch because if he didn't pan out, he was going to be labeled somewhat of a bust, and people just freaked out about that. Wasn't even that crazy of a take. But when people see Jordan Burch left, they see, hey, 5-star Jordan Burch left. That's what they see. That's what they see. Hunter Johnson, I disagree that raw talent never showed in 3 years. I completely disagree. Jaheim Bell had flashes. Marshawn Lloyd had flashes. My friend, if they didn't have flashes, the hype around them wouldn't have been what it was. It did show. It absolutely did show. You cannot sit here and say it didn't show. You cannot say it didn't show at all. I understand it's a popular thing right now to drag these guys through the mud. I'm even someone that, listen, you don't think I was pissed when Jaheim Bell left? I literally went on record and was like, hey, stand on business. Don't think about coming back now. Don't think about coming back now. I don't disagree with you that Jaheim Bell didn't meet expectations. But, I mean, you look at the last 4 games. He ran 16 times for 56 yards against Vandy, 3 catches for 27 yards. He ran 12 times for 30 yards against Florida, 2 for 6 catches. Nobody did anything in that game. Against Tennessee, you want to talk about what did Jaheim Bell do? He ran the ball 17 times for 82 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, 5 catches for 39 yards, and 2 touchdowns in that game. So you cannot sit here and tell me Jaheim Bell didn't do anything. Against Clemson, 9 carries for 29 yards, a touchdown, 2 catches for 2 yards. Nothing crazy there, but I mean, you can't say he never had an impact. I'm also getting confused, though, because I'm looking at his stats here. Where are these other – okay, two okay, so he had 3 rushing touchdowns last year. I was like, where do the other touchdowns go? Okay, he had a rushing touchdown at Arkansas, against South Carolina State, and against Clemson. And then he had 2 receiving touchdowns against Tennessee. I'm not disagreeing with you, Hunter, that the guy didn't live up to the expectations because the expectations were huge. They were huge. But I don't know. We'll see if South Carolina can fill those holes. I like the Kerryon Joyner a lot, man. I see your comment about the Kerryon Joyner. Like I said, I'm excited to get into this and dive into this because I've got thoughts on what's going on. I've got thoughts on this football season. And I'm going to tell you guys, spoiler, I ain't picking this team to win 10 games. This ain't a 10-win team. It's not that type of team. I don't think you guys think it is. But I'm just saying, like, when people who aren't Gamecock people look at this football team, they see South Carolina lost 4 SEC caliber starters. Who did they replace them with? Arkansas fans might say the same thing, Hunter, that you say about Jaheim Bell, because his numbers weren't crazy either at Arkansas. Anyways, guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation going, and I want to continue to hear from you. More of your questions, comments, calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. Attention all Gamecock seafood lovers. Are you tired of searching for the freshest seafood in town? Look no further than the Carolina Fish Market, your go-to destination for the finest and most flavorful seafood in the Carolinas and beyond. Introducing the new Carolina Seafood Subscription Box, a culinary delight delivered right to your doorstep. Each month, you'll receive a carefully curated selection of fresh local seafood sourced directly from the waters of the Carolinas and beyond. From succulent shrimp to mouth-watering grouper to flounder or tuna and everything in between, their subscription box brings the ocean's bounty straight to your Gamecock kitchen. What sets the Carolina Fish Market apart is their commitment to quality and sustainability. They work closely with local fishermen and women who use responsible fishing practices, ensuring that every bite you take supports both your taste buds and our precious marine ecosystems. They've even won Best Seafood 5 out of the last 8 years. But that's not all. they're offering free shipping to all TSUS listeners on every Carolina seafood subscription box, making it even easier for you to indulge in the flavors of the coast. Experience the convenience and joy of having fresh seafood delivered right to your door without any of the hassle. Don't miss on this incredible opportunity to elevate your culinary adventures with the Carolina Fish Market's Carolina Seafood Subscription Box. Join the seafood enthusiasts across the nation who are savoring the taste of the Carolinas, one delectable bite at a time, and just in time for Father's Day. Visit their website today at carolinafishmarket.com. That's carolinafishmarket.com, and embark on a seafood journey like no other. Freshness, flavor, and convenience await you. Order your Carolina Seafood subscription box now and use the promo code SPURSUP, that's SPURSUP, for $10 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code SPURSUP, SPURSUP, for $10 off your first purchase. The Carolina Fish Market, where taste meets the ocean.
Marshall Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Thursday, June the 22nd, 2023. Appreciate you all tuning in as we continue on our Q&A Power Hour. Let me get into your questions. I know that I went on a bit of a rant here in that last segment, so we'll get into your questions specifically. Here we go. Ethan says, I think Arkansas football is very similar to South Carolina, may have similar styles and records as well. The difference is I wish we had the running game that they will have with Rocket Sanders. Indeed. Yeah, that's Rocket Sanders is a hell of a player, man. Hell of a player. Let's see. Spur Daddy says Knox is now playing an offense that passes the ball more than running. Arkansas is a run-first team with a running quarterback. His stats will triple this year with Spencer as his quarterback. Let's see. Jeff Gullidge said under on the yards and over on the touchdowns. Going to be big in the red zone. I could see that as well. Ryan Vincent says much better position to get the ball with the new offense if there's a good combo running and throwing, not hoping something works. Yeah. Dabble Loggins, big year. Michael Lynn said it's going to be over in every category. Michael Lynn also says Rat is going to go to Knox a lot. You'd think so. Bruin Nation says 7-5 this season. What do y'all think? Y'all agree with Bruin Nation? 7-5 for the Gamecocks in 2023? Madison Duncan, thank you. This hat is super dope for sure. I appreciate it. Let's see. Jeff Gullidge, Chris, would you be okay with losing Spencer to the pros to have had Lloyd still on the team? Not saying that was the reason he left. I mean, that's definitely not the reason he left, Jeff. That makes no sense. Why would you not want to come back and play with Spencer Rattler? I guess the only reason is you want to go play with Caleb Williams instead. I mean, I wouldn't change anything, Jeff. I mean, everything happens for a reason. I'd much rather have the quarterback than the running back. But it's just, it's weird. That tweet this morning from Mike Farrell really just made me think, man, and I posted it obviously in a graphic. But when he said which player hitting the portal like hurt your soul, and I just said Marshawn Lloyd. That was the one that like just made no sense. And still to this day, we didn't get a clear-cut answer of why he left. We didn't. That's the shitty thing about the portal. You don't know. You know what I mean? You just don't know. Let's see. I agree with this. Michael Lynn, he says our focus needs to be the offensive line. If you block for the carry-on, Joyner, and Juju, we got playmakers. I will say offensive line does actually concern me much more than who's playing running back. I will tell you that. Because it don't matter who's back there. If you don't have blocking, it doesn't mean a whole lot. And Carolina right now, as it looks right now, that is a huge question mark. No doubt. Michael, you hit the nail on the head, my friend. Hunter Johnson, I think if Rattler goes down at any point, Sellers could step right in and do the same thing. Hunter, I think that comment is a disrespect to Spencer Rattler. I really do. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think Lenoris Sellers is going to be a fantastic player, and he's the quarterback of the future. The key word is the future. If Spencer Rattler goes down, and obviously knock on wood he won't, if that happened, listen to me, if you take Spencer Rattler off this football team, this is a fringe bowl team. There's no doubt. Don't get it twisted. This is a fringe bowl team. This is a team fighting to get the 6 wins. This is a team similar to year one of Shane Beamer if you don't have Spencer Rattler. Flat out. Flat out. I would be willing to say this team probably doesn't make a bowl game if it doesn't have Spencer Rattler on the roster. That's no knock against Lenoris Sellers, but he's a true freshman, man. He's a true freshman. And so to say that there'd be no drop-off if Spencer Rattler wasn't in there, I don't think you're giving enough credit to Spencer Rattler. I really don't. I really don't, man. That's no knock on Sellers. You're going to take it that way, but it's not. Let's see. Bruin says Sellers all quarterback. Better not screw him up trying to make him a running back or receiver. I don't see that happening, Bruin Nation. I don't see that happening. Hunter Johnson, Sellers will be the starter next year. I feel for Doty. He may end up switching positions for next year. Ethan says Marshawn was overrated. Never seemed like his heart was in there. Was in it here. Hunter Johnson, save the clip, Chris. I've seen plenty of quarterbacks play the game. He's got what it takes where it matters between the ears. Hunter, I'm not telling you Lenoris Sellers is not a good player. So you shouldn't want me to save the clip, Hunter, because you're insinuating save the clip for when Spencer Rattler goes down. I hope Lenoris Sellers, outside of situationally, doesn't see a snap this year. Like, if Lenoris Sellers is starting games for Carolina this season, that's a problem. Like, how could you disagree? We should want Spencer Rattler to play every single game, all game long, because it means he's playing well. He's balling out. This is still Spencer Rattler's team. And I'll say this. And Hunter Johnson, Spencer Rattler's not going to be here next year. Yeah, Spencer Rattler's not going to be here next year. No doubt. No doubt. So, yes, to your point, okay, if you were speaking on 2024, then I apologize. I think Lenoris Sellers, I think the Gamecocks with that offensive line that they're revamping through recruiting, Sellers can be the guy. And if he turns out to be that dude, yeah, you could still be a 7, 8, maybe 9-win team next year in 2024. I'm talking about this year, though. I thought if you weren't referring to this year, I apologize. But to the point of that, man, I said it a lot last summer, and I put a lot of it on Spencer Rattler last summer. Guys, I could argue to you there's even more pressure on Rattler this time around because I said it last summer. South Carolina will go as far as 7 takes them, which, you know what's funny about that? Actually turned out to not be all that true because, well, you know what? Let me think back. I guess maybe you could say it was true. Maybe you could say it was true because those last 2 games, obviously, they were the Spencer Rattler show. And before that, he was terribly inconsistent. And South Carolina, as a team, was terribly inconsistent. I'm trying to think. What were his, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, dude, it's insane. Like, guys, listen to this. It's crazy. I'm telling you, man. When you think about Rattler last year, guys, it's wild. It's wild. I'm just looking at his numbers from last season. 1 touchdown, 2 picks against Georgia State. 1-1 against Arkansas. No TDs, 2 picks against Georgia. 0-0 against Charlotte. 2 touchdowns, 2 picks against SC State. 1 touchdown, 1 pick against Kentucky. Guys, I was thinking about Kentucky, he went 14-19 for 177 yards. Against Texas A&M, Gamecocks win that game, right? 12 for 25 for 168 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. Against Mizzou, 20 for 30, 171, no touchdowns, interception. Against Vandy, 18-26 for 200, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Florida, he goes 18 for 26 again for 145, no TDs, no picks. Bro, Spencer Rattler was terrible up until the last 3 games. Tennessee, all of a sudden, 30-37, 438, 6 touchdowns, no picks. Clemson, he goes 25-39, 360, 2 TDs, and those 2 interceptions. Notre Dame, 29-46, 246, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. So, it's just like, I don't know, man. When it comes to Rattler and what you expect out of him, I think it is far from a given that Spencer Rattler is going to be like some all SEC quarterback. It's far from a given, man. And I think what we're all banking on, again, that Marcus Satterfield truly was the issue. And guys, I think he was a lot of the issue. I think he was the majority of the issue. I think that the offensive scheme, the offensive play calling was just truly abysmal. And when they took it out of his hands, AKA the last 2 games of the season, you saw what happened. You know what I mean? So, that's the goal, obviously, and the hope is that you get more of the last 2 games, Rattler, than you do the first 10 games. But to the point of, again, there's more pressure on him because now, it's hard to think your rush offense could be worse. But, guys, let me ask you this. Realistically, just take a moment. How could it be better? Really, truly, genuinely. Let me ask you this. What signs point to the rushing offense will improve this year? Last year, you had 136 starts or 132 starts, and you had 3 starting offensive linemen back. Okay. This year, you have 86 starts, 2 starting offensive linebacker, and Jalen Nichols is probably out for the season. Last year, you had Marshawn Lloyd, Christian Beal-Smith, Juju McDowell as your 3-headed monster. Now, all you have is Juju. You got DeCarrion Joyner, who's going to try to make it work. He's been playing wide receiver for a couple of years. He's sliding to running back. You got Mario Anderson, a D2 transfer. You got Dontavius Braswell, a true freshman. I'm just simply asking a question, like, what do you point to that makes you feel better that the rushing attack will be better? Unfortunately, I don't think there's anything concrete you can point to that says, I know without a doubt the rush offense is going to surprise and it's going to be better. And what's crazy is that you think to yourself, well, how can it be worse? How can it be worse? Because it was so bad last year, man. It was so freaking bad last year. I mean, the rushing offense was terrible, man. Carolina ranked outside of the top 100. Brewer Nation says, Chris, find some joy. I got plenty of joy, Brewer Nation. It brings me joy to inject truth serum. Brewer Nation, I'm just getting you ready for what's coming next month, my guy, because I'm going to lock in some predictions, damn it. I'm going to lock in some predictions. You know I'm going to piss somebody off, Brewer Nation. I'm going to have a pick that pisses somebody off. You best believe it. I look forward to it. At this point, Brewer Nation, I look forward to pissing off Gamecock fans. I look forward to it almost at this point. Pissing off the Gamecock fans who don't realize the beauties in the banter and who cannot have constructive conversation. I look forward to pissing those people off. And Hunter Johnson, you don't know what my record's going to be. Hunter Johnson said Chris is going to say 7-5. Dude, I picked 9-3 in January. I picked 9-3 in January, my way too early predictions. So, I mean, I'll tell you this, Hunter Johnson, I'm not going to sit here and act like, I could pick 4-8. You know what I mean? Like, no, I think the realistic range of possibilities for South Carolina, it falls somewhere between 6-6 and 9-3, realistically, right? I think the range is probably in there. I'd be surprised if Carolina went less than 6 wins. I'd be very surprised. And I'll tell you this, Hunter Johnson, if Carolina wins more than 9, Shane, even if they just win 9, if Carolina wins 9 or more, Shane Beamer, I'm not even joking, he should realistically be considered Coach of the Year in the SEC. Truly. Truly. So anyways, no, maybe I misspoke, Ruin Nation. My goal is not to piss off people. But I'm certainly not the warm and fuzzy prediction guy. We all know that. But I will say this. Hey, I will say this. And I'm not a big pat myself on the back for record predictions type of guy. But 2021, I picked 6-6, 3-5 in the SEC. The Gamecocks finished 6-6, 3-5 in the SEC. Last year, I picked 8-4, 4-4 in the SEC. With a win over Clemson, might I add you. What did South Carolina finish? 8-4, 4-4 in the SEC, with a win over Clemson. So I feel like I've got a pretty good feel on this thing. I'm shooting for 3 for 3. I feel like I got a decent feel on this thing. I do. I feel like I got a decent feel. I don't know what pisses people off, though, Bruin Nation, more. The predictions or the position unit grades. Those really get under people's skin. And there's going to be there's going to be some grades this year that are just going to make people feel uncomfortable. I mean, you know it. And you know which position units I'm talking about. I don't think I've ever given a position unit an F in my years of doing the position unit previews. I don't think I've ever picked an F. I tell you what, though, there's a couple of position units you could realistically say it's an F. I'm not even joking. I feel like that's too harsh, but You could. You could argue it. Could you not? I think you could. Anyways, I'm not trying to spoil anything, guys, because that'll all come starting in the beginning of July, and I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, realistically, and I don't sit here and say my predictions are gold. I could be dead wrong. I hope Carolina goes 15-0 and wins the national title. We all do. But, I'll lock in picks, predictions, and it's one of the fun parts, and I'll lock in predictions for the entire SEC, and, we'll go from there. But, I think realistically the Gamecocks are floating around between that 6-win to 9-win range. I think that's fair for South Carolina. I think a lot of this season depends on what version of Spencer Rattler they're getting. Again, we will have more commentary on that as we get closer to the season, right? So, and I'll tell you this, Bruin Nation, I don't think my predictions actually last year pissed people off all that much. I mean, you pick your team to go 8-4, right? There's not going to be a lot of people that get all that upset, right? But if let's just say if you're, I mean, how many Gamecock people are there out there actually giving game by game predictions that are like notable? Not many. I mean, there's the Spurs Up show, and then I don't really know if anybody else, because nobody wants to call wins and losses, right? Nobody wants to call wins and losses. Most of the other entities are so garnet glasses, like, well, I can't pick my team to lose, man. It just hurts. I can't do it. I could never pick a Gamecocks loss. It's like, okay, well, then let's leave the prediction making to the people that can do that. But so, like, I mean, if I were to go out there and let's just say pick 5-7 for this season, even if I genuinely feel that's what's going to happen, and even if it turned out to be right, Bruin Nation, everybody else, you know it as well as I do. I'd be labeled negative. I'd be labeled toxic. I'd be labeled a pariah to South Carolina athletics. I'd be labeled just a toxin to South Carolina football. I mean, I'd be called everything under the sun and more, just based off of that. So I haven't really caught a ton of hell because, again, I mean, I remember when I picked 3-7 in 2020. I think back like my history of predictions. I think 2000, I didn't drop predictions in 2017, I don't think. If I did, I just don't remember what they were. 2018, though, I picked, I want to say 8-4 or even 9-3. 2019, I picked 7-5. 2020, I picked 3-7, which that got pushed back, right? That got pushed back for sure. And Carolina ended up going 2-8, ironically enough. And I actually predicted in 2020 that we would get to the bye week and Will Muschamp would be fired. I was damn close that year. 2021 didn't get a lot of pushback because I went 6-6. And I mean, I think making a bowl game in year one of Beamer, bowl game year one of Beamer was a success. And then last year I went 8 wins, which was a huge success. So, I mean, I haven't gotten pushback a lot in predictions. And I'm sure if I picked 9-3 or 12-0 this year, I'd be beloved. You know what I mean? But no, guys, I don't know what my predictions are going to be. I have no idea. I don't know what my predictions are going to be. I'll sit down and make those, and I don't know. And I think there is a path to South Carolina being a surprise team in the SEC this year and overachieving yet again under Beamer and the Shane Beamer effect, Beamer ball to the moon, if you will. But, there's just like every other season, right? There's question marks. And that's what makes it fun. We don't know. We have no idea. Guys, we're going to jump into one final break. On the other side, I want to continue to hear from you as we close out the show in style. More of your questions, comments, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. Attention all Gamecock seafood lovers. Are you tired of searching for the freshest seafood in town? Look no further than the Carolina Fish Market, your go-to destination for the finest and most flavorful seafood in the Carolinas and beyond. Introducing the new Carolina Seafood Subscription Box, a culinary delight delivered right to your doorstep. Each month, you'll receive a carefully curated selection of fresh local seafood sourced directly from the waters of the Carolinas and beyond. From succulent shrimp to mouth-watering grouper to flounder or tuna and everything in between, their subscription box brings the ocean's bounty straight to your Gamecock kitchen. What sets the Carolina Fish Market apart is their commitment to quality and sustainability. They work closely with local fishermen and women who use responsible fishing practices, ensuring that every bite you take supports both your taste buds and our precious marine ecosystems. They've even won Best Seafood 5 out of the last 8 years. But that's not all. They're offering free shipping to all TSUS listeners on every Carolina Seafood subscription box, making it even easier for you to indulge in the flavors of the coast. Experience the convenience and joy of having fresh seafood delivered right to your door without any of the hassle. Don't miss on this incredible opportunity to elevate your culinary adventures with the Carolina Fish Market's Carolina Seafood subscription box. Join the seafood enthusiasts across the nation who are savoring the taste of the Carolinas, one delectable bite at a time, and just in time for Father's Day. Visit their website today at carolinafishmarket.com. That's carolinafishmarket.com, and embark on a seafood journey like no other. Freshness, flavor, and convenience await you. Order your Carolina Seafood subscription box now and use the promo code SPURSUP, that's SPURSUP, for $10 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code SPURSUP, SPURSUP, for $10 off your first purchase. The Carolina Fish Market, where taste meets the ocean.
Marshall Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on the Daily Crow. Final 10 minutes or so. We're taking your questions, your comments as we close out the show here on this Thursday. Again, guys, Mark Ryan will join us tomorrow. He had to reschedule, so back to our normal schedule of 3 hours. Tomorrow we'll have Jake Crane on at 1:15, Mark Ryan at 2, and we will squeeze in your questions at the end of that show as well. Also, in our first hour, we'll talk Texas football. My guy, of the Horn Takes podcast as we break down everything Longhorns. And also, we'll close out the top 5 series on the show. So, going to be a lot of fun, guys. Great question here from Jeff Gullidge. He says, Chris, speaking of game by game, are you doing SEC pick'em games on Fridays or just sticking with the Gamecocks prediction? So, Jeff, before I have done the SEC gambling picks on Wednesdays. Okay. So I've done gambling picks on Wednesday. So I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. I think SEC game picks would be really fun. So maybe I'll incorporate that in. You know, it's Jeff, it's really interesting. I'm just so glad you bring this up, Jeff, because with the way that we are producing content now, I've always thought in terms of scheduling out content based off of, the podcast, like thinking about the podcast, if you will. Well, now that we've broken down the barrier between the Daily Crow, the podcast, what have you, in the way that we're distributing content now, things are going to be a little bit different. There's going to be a lot of similarities, but things are going to be a little bit different in regards to, our segments, when they're coming, what we're doing, what we're discussing, because there's going to be a balance, right, between scheduled content or weekly content along with breaking news, topics that come about, things that happen. So just stay tuned. But I think giving picks for all the SEC games could be a lot of fun. Austin Gregory says, great question here by Austin Gregory. What's the update on the TSUS store gift cards? Yes, I am talking to my dudes as we revamp the store. I do believe that's something, Austin, that we will be able to do. I believe that is something we'll be able to do. So just stay tuned for that, like I mentioned. But, yeah, so let's see. My guy Chase in the Big Cock Club Discord said Chris is going to go find some joy for the third hour. My question was this. What happens first? I find some joy or we find a running game? So ponder that, why don't you? Jeff Gullidge, that's what I was thinking. With 3 hours, you could add Chris's hot picks. Name could change later. No, I mean, Jeff, that's a great point. That is a great point. I think that would be great content, too. And obviously, I don't think it's a secret, guys. I mean, I'm trying to expand out into, talking a little bit more SEC, right, versus just being South Carolina, talking the entire conference. I think giving picks for all the games, Jeff, I think would be great, right? So, that is a great point by you. Because I'm even thinking, Jeff, like, when do I want to lock in my prediction for the game when I do, the weekly content, if you will? I don't know. That might happen on Thursdays. I don't know. That's a great question, Jeff. It's a great question. I don't know. I've got time to plan that. That's the good news. I've got time to plan that. Luke RJ comments, hey, Chris, have y'all talked about G.G. Jackson in the NBA draft tonight? Where is he projected to get drafted? Apparently, Austin Gregory says that second round is when he's projected to go. His stock has fallen a lot. Interesting. I did not know that. Let's see. Austin Hicks, why do you think we're struggling so much in the portal, especially at running back? Who wouldn't want to get a starting spot? I've seen other schools get like 3. Well, Austin, I'll say this. You can look at it one of two ways. You can look at it as the first way is saying that Carolina is just struggling to find a running back. What's going on? They're struggling. I mean, the other way you could look at it and say there's nobody out there that they feel like is better than who they have. So maybe Dontavius Braswell, they feel like, hey, he's going to be a breakout player for us. Maybe Mario Anderson's really that dude. Maybe the Carryon Joyner at running back is going to be like the surprise of the SEC. Maybe Juju McDowell, the way they use him, he's going to be, an all SEC caliber player. Like, I guess, Austin, you can look at it both ways. And that's the beauty, I guess. And the fun part is we're just not going to know. We're not going to know until kickoff. We just won't know, right? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. But, I don't know, man. I'm surprised that South Carolina didn't pick up anybody at running back. That honestly stuns me, to be honest with you. Austin, what's the worst call you've ever received on the show? That's a great question, Austin. You know, I'm going to give you a cop-out answer and say none of them, because I appreciate everyone that calls into this show. Even if it's a troll account or even if it's people trolling, I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate people engaging, conversating, interacting. Brendan M says, I feel like Chris Phillips owes us a 4-hour TDC tomorrow. Be like Paul Feinbaum. You never know, Brendan. I could surprise you with a 4-hour TDC. Let's see. Good God. Hunter Johnson says, all BS aside, this team can go far. Georgia will have some players in jail when we play them, and that'll be our test early on. So you're banking on the entire team being arrested for South Carolina to have a chance in that one. Love it. Love it. Michael Lynn says they believe in the carry-on Jonah. That's why they didn't sign anyone. I hear you. I mean, hey, Michael, listen, in all seriousness, that would be such an incredible story, Michael. There's not a Gamecock fan out there that doesn't want to see that happen. Not a Gamecock fan out there who does not want to see that happen. That would be such an incredible story, my friend. Who wouldn't love to see that? I mean, truly, genuinely, who would not love to see that? Let's see. Austin says GG's have projected to be selected by the Hornets 39th, Pacers via Rockets 32nd, Nuggets 37th, or Hornets 39th, according to the most popular mock. So 32nd to 39th, his range. That's crazy, man. He's fallen that far. That's wild. That is wild. But, wishing the best. So Austin, let me ask you this. What picks are tonight? Like, will that happen tonight, or is like tonight just the first round, or just the entire draft happen tonight? Does the entire draft take place tonight? Frank said this year would have been a good time to play Georgia at home. Maybe so. Austin, Twitter will know the picks before anyone. That's why it isn't as big as the NFL. How is that the case, Austin? How were they able to do that? Interesting. Guys, I appreciate you all tuning in. Again, thank you all so much for rolling with the punches. In case you missed it at the top of the show, one of my dogs chewed up the cord to my headphones. So, which is all good. It's fine. No big deal. Ordered some new headphones this morning. We'll get them on Saturday, so we'll have this fixed by next week. But, yeah. Just hilarious for sure. Anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Be sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live, when we drop new video content. Also, hit the subscribe button on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check us out there. Want to say thank you to John Neighbors of Locked On Razorbacks for coming on the show and talking Arkansas football. And thank you to all of you for engaging, for asking questions. I thought the conversation was great today, honestly. I thought the conversation was great. I'm looking forward to more of it, guys. And I can't say thank you enough. Again, back to a normal 3-hour show tomorrow. Excited for that. And we'll go into the weekend in style. Until then, guys, thank you all so much. Appreciate you all tuning in. Have a great rest of your Thursday. And we will talk to you all